Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are having a good Thursday. I figured I would do this before heading out to do my day work runs. And we're up to the year 2000 in the memorable playoff series playlist here, which I know unfortunately doesn't get a whole ton of views, but these are fun to do. I enjoy them, and we get to the year 2000, and I really had a hard time going back and forth trying to decide which series to look at because it was either going to be the Eastern Conference Final or it was going to be the Stanley Cup Final. Both of them were incredible series, absolutely incredible. But this one, I thought I would look at the Eastern Conference Final because this series was memorable for two big reasons. One reason was it was a first. It was a first happening, and the second reason is, well, one of the best players that had ever laced up the skates. He returned, and then we'll get to that. But so we're looking at the 2000 Eastern Conference Final between the New Jersey Devils and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, this series ended up being a pretty good series, a really good series. And it was looking like it was going one way, and then it wasn't. But we get into this. Now, these two, they're in the same division, obviously. And this was decided, it was only decided by 2 points. This decided who got home ice for that game 7. And so we look at the New Jersey Devils. They finished second in the division. In 82 games, they had a record of 45, 24, 8, and 5. Now there's 4 columns here. You've got wins, losses, ties, and overtime losses. Kind of interesting how they did that, but they did. They finished with 103 points. Now, of course, the overtime losses, you would still get the point. It was kind of weird how they did that. How you're doing a 4-column thing, but they had 103 points, and their opponent in 82 games finished with a record of 45, 22, 12, and 3 with 105 points, the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers at this point, this was a good team, a really good team. A team that looked like they could potentially become Stanley Cup champions. You had the Legion of Doom line. They were really good. Of course, 1997, they went to the finals. They got swept. And this year, it was looking like they could potentially get back to those finals. But we'll go through this here. So in game 1, New Jersey steals home ice away. In the first period, just 55 seconds into the first period of game 1, it is Scott Niedermayer opening the scoring from Randy McKay and Sergei Brylin. That makes it 1-0. But Philadelphia, they don't get down. They tie it up. At 8:20, it is Mark Recchi from Damon Langkow. So that ties the game at 1 apiece. And you're thinking, all right, Philadelphia, good comeback here. Well, at 17:38, Peter Sikora scores from Jason Arnott and Scott Stevens. That makes it 2-1. That ends up being the game winner. But they kind of keep up the scoring. Because then, At 18:04, it is Bobby Holik from Sergey Brylin and Randy McKay. 3-1 New Jersey. That's the score at the end of the first period. There is no scoring in the second period. And then in the third period, just to kind of tack it on a little more, at 5:19, it's Claude Lemieux from Alexander McGillney and Scott Gomez. That makes it 4-1. That is the final in Game 1. New Jersey steals home ice advantage. Now, Martin Brodeur, the goaltenders, you had Martin Brodeur for New Jersey and Brian Boucher for Philadelphia. So Brodeur stopped 35 of 36 for a .972 save percentage in that first game. Pretty darn good. Brian Boucher stopped 20 of 24 for an .833 save percentage. Not that great. Now, mind you, Brodeur had a great game in that first game. This was a series. He was not that great. He had some stinkers in this series. I mean, if there was a series that you would have thought could have, taken down New Jersey, this was the series. But so New Jersey's up 1-0. So we go to Game 2. Can Philadelphia get back into the series? Well, at a minute 38 of the first period, it is Rick Tocchet from Adam Burt and Simon Gagne. That gives the Flyers a lead 1-0. So Philly comes out, they strike first, but New Jersey, they don't get down. At 13:23, it's Scott Gomez from Colin White and Sergei Nemchinov. That ties the game at 1. That is the score at the end of the first period. We go into the second period, and New Jersey, they take the lead. At 2:51, unassisted, it's Jason Arnott. He makes it 2-1. Then at 14:50, to give New Jersey a 2-goal lead, it is Patrick Elias from Peter Sikora and Scott Gomez. So it's 3-1 in favor of New Jersey. New Jersey's in command here. So you'd think, right? Well, in the last minute, and those last minute goals of a period, at 19:21, it's Eric Desjardins from Rick Tocchet and Valery Zelapukin. Zelapukin, I think. That makes it 3-2. So that's the score at the end of 2. Then we get to the third period, and Philadelphia, they tie the game. At 1:06 of the third period, it's Rick Tocchet from Keith Primo and Eric Desjardins. 3-3. We got a game. Then, at 1:58 of the third period, what ends up being the game-winning goal, it's Damon Lankow from Keith Jones. That makes it 4-3. The Flyers, they don't give up a goal the rest of the game, and they tie the series at 1 with a 4-3 victory. Now, Martin Brodeur, he stopped 26 of 30 shots for an .867 save percentage. Not great. Brian Boucher stopped 30 of 33 for a .909 save percentage. So, pretty good. Pretty good. And Brian Boucher, he was phenomenal in this series. I mean, he made some saves that were just unbelievable. But so we got a tie series. So we go to Game 3. And at 2:57 of the first period, Philadelphia strikes first. It is Mark Recchi from John LeClair. That makes it 1-0. And then, but again, New Jersey, they keep battling back. At 4:24, it's Lemieux from Vladimir Malakoff and Colin White. That makes it 1-1. Of course, Lemieux, that's Claude Lemieux. But then at 14:14, Keith Jones gives the Flyers the lead back. It's at 2-1. Keith Jones from Primo and Tocchet. So it's 2-1 in favor of Philadelphia. That's your score at the end of the first period. We get into the second period, and Philadelphia, they extend their lead. At 7:15, it's Tocchet from Primo. 3-1 in favor of the Flyers. Then we go to the third. And New Jersey, they cut that lead down. At 15:59, it is Niedermayer from Sikora and Arnott, 3-2 in favor of Philadelphia. But that is as close as they get. At 18:11, though, it is Simon Gagne from Recchi and Dan McGillis. That makes it 4-2. That gives the Flyers a 4-2 victory and a 2-1 series lead. Now, mind you, we're in New Jersey now. So, they're not only taking home ice back, but they've taken one in New Jersey. Now, Brian Boucher stopped 27 of 29 for a .931 save percentage. Marty Brodeur stopped 17 of 21 for an .810 save percentage. .810. Ouch. So the Flyers are up 2-1. We go to game 4. Can the Devils tie the series? Can they get back into this? Well, at 16:07, Philadelphia scores first in game 4. 16:07, it's Recchi from Gagne. 1-0 Flyers. But New Jersey, they don't get down. In the second period, at 12:13 of the second period, so it was 1-0 at the end of the first. Get into the second period at 12:13, it is Bobby Holik from Breland and McKay. That makes it 1-1, and we got a 1-1 tie going into the third. And then in the third, what ends up being the game winner at 12:58, current Toronto Maple Leaf head coach and coach of the 2019 Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues, Craig Berube, scores from McGillis and Kent Manderville to give the Flyers a 2-1 lead. And then, just to add a little insult, at 16:40, it is Simon Gagne from Desjardins and Leclerc. That makes it 3-1. The Flyers win the game 3-1. Boucher stops 24 of 25 for a .960 save percentage. Marty Brodeur stopped 18 of 21 for an .857 save percentage. So, the Flyers, they're 1 win away from the Stanley Cup final. They're up 3-1. Now, no team had ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the conference final to win the series. Why do I mention that? Well, here's why. We get to game 5. And must win for New Jersey. Now, they're back in Philadelphia, so Philadelphia's got a chance to, punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup final on home ice. But New Jersey, Jason Arnott on the power play strikes first at 10:25. It's Arnott from Brian Rafalski and Peter Sikora. That makes it 1-0 in favor of New Jersey. Then at 15:15, to make it 2-0 in favor of the Devils, it's Holik from Jay Pandolfo and Vladimir Malakoff. That makes it 2-0 in favor of the Devils. Then we go to the second period, and at 1:47 of the second period, it is Sikora from Elias and Stevens to make it 3-0 in favor of New Jersey. But then, on the power play at 15:45, it is Zelepukin. I keep messing up how his name's. I think it's Zelepukin. It's Zelepukin from Primo and Recchi. That makes it 3-1. So hey, they got a little bit. Kind of try to get back into the game a little bit. Well, so that's the score at the end of 2. Then we get into the third period, and at 54 seconds of the third period, it is Elias from Arnott. That makes it 4-1. That ends up being your final. And Marty Brodeur stopped 20 of 21 for a .952 save percentage. And Brian Boucher stopped 26 of 30 for an .867 save percentage. So, not a lot, I mean, not a whole lot going on there, but, New Jersey, they stave off elimination, and they force Game 6 back in New Jersey. So we get back into New Jersey, and through the first two periods, no scoring. A goaltending duel. A goaltending duel with not a lot of shots on one side here. But in the third period, at 11:26, it's Claude Lemieux from Pandolfo and Holik. That makes it 1-0 in favor of New Jersey. Then at 16:33, making it 2-0, it's Alexander Mogilny from Sergei Brylin and John Madden. And then, to spoil the shutout, the big return. The big return for Philadelphia that everybody was waiting for to come off the injured list after dealing with a concussion. Eric Lindros returns in this game, and he scores. At 19:31, it's Lindros from Primo and Recchi. That makes it 2-1, but it's 19:31 of the third. There's not enough time to get back into the game. And New Jersey forces a Game 7. So they were down 3-1. Now it's 3-3 with that 2-1 win. Brian Boucher has stopped 24 of 26 for a .923 save percentage. And Marty Brodeur, he didn't have a whole lot of work here. He stopped 12 of 13 for an identical .923 save percentage. So Philadelphia, a chance to punch your ticket to the Stanley Cup Final for a second time, and you only managed 13 shots. 13, that's it. Now that's how good the Devils' defense was in that game. So we get into Game 7. And this game was remembered by one big reason. I believe it was in the third period. But we'll get to that as we get toward the third period here. But New Jersey forcing Game 7. In Game 7, on the power play at 6:44, it's Elias from Arnott and Holik to give the Devils a 1-0 lead. That's the score at the end of one. And then Philadelphia, they tie the game. On the power play, it's Tocchet from Leclerc and Andy Delmore. That makes it 2-1. So we get into the third period. And everybody remembers the hit. Now, we had seen something like this happen a couple games beforehand. A very similar thing. Where the Devils' defense caused a Flyer player to cut into the middle of the ice into the waiting hands of Scott Stevens. Well, they did this with Eric Lindros. Lindros has got the puck. He's skating in. He goes and he sees the D. The D is drawing him into the middle of the ice. He puts his head down, and Scott Stevens absolutely drills him in a hit that today would be definitely a suspension. Probably, I mean, during the regular season, a hit like that Stevens laid on Lindros would probably be at least 4 or 5 games easily. Playoffs, you'd probably be done the rest of the playoff. But lays out Lindros. And this basically was the end of, I mean, it wasn't the end of Lindros' career, but he was never the same player. Never the same player after that hit from Scott Stevens. And, ends up, Lindros, they have to help him off. He was just getting over a concussion, and he suffered another one. And yeah, it basically, that basically was the end of his career as the player that he was. But Scott Stevens, boy, you did not want to go into the middle of the ice with Scott Stevens out there. because, man, was he a hard hitter. But after that, at 17:28, Patrick Elias scores the game-winning goal from Jason Arnott and Alexander Mogilny, 2-1 in favor of New Jersey. That ends up being the final score. The New Jersey Devils do something that had never been done before. They come back from a 3-1 series deficit in the conference final to win the series and advance to the Stanley Cup final. Philadelphia, they're up 3-1. Now I don't know if they would have beaten Dallas in the Stanley Cup final if it would have been Philadelphia and Dallas. That would have been a great series. That would have been a fantastic series too. But Philadelphia, this was one of their best chances. Again, this run that they had in the late 90s. In the Lindros era, that was an incredible team. They couldn't get over that hump, being the first team to ever blow a 3-1 series lead in the conference final. Yeesh. But the goaltenders though, Marty Brodeur, he stopped 26 of 27 for a .963 save percentage. Brian Boucher stopped 16 of 18 for an .889 save percentage. So the Devils only managed 18 shots in that seventh game. 18 shots. But they scored the 2 that they needed. And the Devils advanced to the Stanley Cup final. And they would end up going on to win the Stanley Cup. And that series, it was literally a coin flip. I kept thinking, what series do I review? Because it was either going to be this one or it was going to be the Stanley Cup final. Either way, it was going to be New Jersey. It was going to be New Jersey against Philly or Dallas. And I went with this one mainly because of the fact that it was the first team ever to come back from a 3-1 series deficit in a conference final to win. And of course, the Eric Lindros hit on Scott Stevens. Just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. This series was a tremendous series. It was the 2000 Eastern Conference Final. New Jersey, of course, goes on. They win the Stanley Cup over the Dallas Stars in the next round. And, yeah, what an incredible series, though. And, what did you guys think of this series? Did you guys sit and watch it? I know I did. Me being the hockey junkie that I am, I watched every one of these games. And yeah. So, what did you think of the series? What did you think of the hit? Do you think in today's NHL, does Scott Stevens get suspended for that hit on Lindros? And if so, how many games do you think he gets during the regular season if it was a regular season hit? How many games do you think Stevens gets? And being it was in the playoffs in this day and in today's NHL, would he have seen the ice for the rest of the playoffs? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And yeah, that is the 2000 Eastern Conference Final. The New Jersey Devils come back from a 3-1 series deficit to defeat the Philadelphia Flyers and advance to the Stanley Cup Final, 4-3. And yeah, that's the 2000. That's the memorable series for the year 2000. And let me know what you guys think. And I will see you guys again later.